is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. We have 30 teams in action today. One game last night. The Rangers' first team since
23 years.
I was going to say since the United States colonized, had less than 10 shots on goal against James Reimer. Luckily, they're not on the slate here tonight. The Leafs are, which makes it an awful slate, but almost everybody is in action here tonight. I hate the NHL for doing this. They're doing it. At least MLB starts on Thursday. But yeah, joining me to break it down. What's going on, Slim Cliffy?
Yeah, not a whole lot. Like you said, 15 games tonight. 2 games tomorrow. MLB, I think, technically starts tomorrow. It's that Giants-Yankees game on Netflix. And then
with the Usos.
Whatever. And then most of the teams jump in on Thursday. So, yeah, MLB starting this week, but lots to get to today. We should probably get right to it.
Yep. And just real quick, with MLB starting tomorrow, if you do use promo code PUCKLUCK, that'll get you 15% off any of the Sims packages for MLB. Just go to stokastic.com/pricing. Any sport, any subscription, but with MLB starting on technically tomorrow, mostly Thursday, you can go to stokastic.com/pricing. Use promo code PUCKLUCK, get 15% off. The Toronto Maple Leafs with a 2.6 total heading into Boston. It's their personal house of horrors. The Bruins have a 3.5 total. Leafs going Tavares, Cowan, Nylander sucks. Domi, Nyes, Robertson, they also suck. Bruins going Minton, Pastrnak, Kuznetsov, Zacha, Arvidsson, Middlestat, Lindholm, Geeky, Reichel. On the Toronto side, Tavares, Nylander, Cowan coming in with a little bit of negative leverage, 4.7% top two, 6.2% projected ownership. They have been really bad at 5-on-5. They are fully correlated, though, and they are only 15,500, and the Bruins take a ton of penalties. Single entry, I'm out on the Leafs, but if you are playing, 150 and you do get some because of the power play isn't very good, but they will get a lot of opportunities. I'm fine with it, but in single entry, out on the Leafs. My interest is on the Bruins side here. That top line is just coming in with an insane amount of ownership. 4.9% top two, 12.1% projected ownership. The Zacha line, 0.8% top two, 4.9% projected ownership. And the Geeky line, 1.2% top two, 5.8% projected ownership. A lot of negative leverage here. I think as a full stack, I'm not going to do that with Boston 1. I'm fine with a 2-man of Minton and Pastrnak just because I am. But I would definitely add in another power play guy, whether that's Zacha, whether it's Lindholm, whether it's Geeky. That's how I would stack Boston 1. I think if I was going to full stack anything from Boston, it would be the second or third lines. They are fillers at 11-6 and 11-5 respectively, but again, this is a good 5-on-5 matchup for them. It's a good power play matchup as well. The Leafs don't take a ton of penalties, but if push comes to shove, if you have a lean to Lindholm or to Zacha, I have a slight lean to the Zacha line just because they've been scoring all season. I think that's fine, but I think getting Pastrnak in with Minton and another power play guy would be my favorite thing on the Boston side.
Yeah, quickly on the Leafs, like that top line, 3 expected goals per 60 together this season. Pretty good offensive generation. Not a ton of shot attempts, but it is a line that I suspect would be able to create some good quality. For me, it's just the price. Like, I don't particularly love playing them on a 15-game slate, but 15,500 for a fully correlated top line where all 3 guys, maybe Cowan doesn't get a ton of ice time, but Nylander and Tavares are going to play 19 to 21 minutes, give or take, as long as the game's somewhat close. Cowan's on the power play, it's Michelli, but either way, 2 out of 3 guys on the top power play, like it's fine. it's one of those, like, if you're making one of a lineup where you're playing a couple lines between like 14 and 17K because you want to play one of the expensive defensemen. There are a bunch you might want to play tonight. We'll get to them later. Werenski's on the slate, Makar, Yossi, Quinn Hughes, so on and so forth. I think it's a line you consider. Other than that, no real interest in Toronto. My interest in Boston's honestly, it's the power play guys, and might even, I mean, power play stacking on a slate this big feels kind of tough, but a couple things. One, yes, there's a lot of negative leverage on Boston. You know, I don't typically love playing teams with a lot of negative leverage, but when I ran Sims, some of the Boston top guys came in with a lot of positive leverage. Victor Arvidsson leading the way. He's kind of the straw that stirs the drink on that second line, so that makes sense. David Pastrnak, 15.8% positive leverage. Morgan Geekie not far behind, and then Elias Lindholm after him. So, like, a lot of the top power play guys there, other than Arvidsson. In a Boston power play stack, if you stack all five guys, Saka, Lindholm, Geekie, Pastrnak, McAvoy, and throw in a goalie around 7,800, 8K, you have like 4,800 to 5,000 per roster spot left after that. Like, it's not super expensive to stack. And Toronto typically didn't take a ton of penalties. That's been getting worse as the season's gone on. Their last 25 games, they're basically league average for time shorthanded per game, which is a big deviation from them because the first 40 games of the season, they're one of the least penalized teams in the NHL. But I don't know if anybody's watched Toronto over the last 2 months, but that team's just been getting worse and worse and worse as the season's gone on. And that's reflected in how many penalties they take. And not only that, but the goals against on the PK have gotten worse. Like, the penalty kill was the one thing that Toronto really excelled at, actually, in over the first 40-some games of the season. And then again, over those last 25 games, below average by goals against per minute. So this is actually a pretty good power play spot for the Bruins. Tons of positive leverage from the Sims. And given the size of the slate, I don't care about playing. I don't really, unless it's a bad team, and there are going to be a couple of those later that doesn't really produce a lot offensively. I don't mind playing a negatively leveraged line because I can find a positively leveraged line elsewhere. So at the very least, like, Pastrnak one off, I think makes a lot of sense. But I think if I'm stacking the Bruins here tonight, I might just straight up stack the power play.
Can't go wrong stacking the power play against the Leafs. Ottawa Senators, they 2.9 total. Heading into Detroit, the Red Wings have a 3.1. The Sens beat the Rangers last night in one of the ugliest games of the season, my lifetime, the world. Senators going Stützle, Batherson, Giroux, Cousins, Tkachuk, Grieg, Pinto, Amadio, Cousins. Dylan Larkin, game time decision. Looks like he's going to play. Who was the other one? There was another one. Oh, Raymond had a maintenance day, but he's expected to play as well. Larkin, Raymond, Finney, Comfort, Kane, DeBrincat, Kopp, Casper, Appleton. On the Detroit side, listen, like, getting Dylan Larkin back is a massive boost to the Wings 5-on-5 and on the power play, but this is the worst possible 5-on-5 matchup to come back for, at least in the Eastern Conference. I'm not playing the Wings on a 15-game slate against the Sens with their better goalie in net. The Rangers faced Reimer last night and put 4 shots on goal on them or something like that. Larkin, Raymond, Finney, they were together a bunch earlier in the season, and they're actually pretty good, but, like, this is just a brutal matchup. If you got one because they're 14,600 because of 2 guys on the power play, fine, but single entry, no interest in the Wings. The Senators side on the top 2 lines is just a price thing, right? Like 18K, 18,400, back-to-back on the road, 15-game slate. That probably takes me out on them. There's other lines in that range that I'd rather play on this slate. No one's playing them, 0.1% for all the lines. But if I was going to play a Sens line, it would be Pinto, Cousins, Amadio as a filler. Two of them are fine, Pinto, Amadio, Pinto, Cousins, whatever you need to do. So it would be Ottawa 3 for me, and I don't really have interest on the Wings.
Yeah. Of course, obviously some pretty big injury news on the Ottawa side. Thomas Chabot got hurt last night, left the game. They said he's going to be out a while. Jake Sanderson obviously already out. Nick Jensen is out. Lassie Thompson is out. That's 4 defensemen out of the lineup. Artem Zub and Jordan Spence, it's your time to shine, boys. That's what's kind of throwing a wrench in things here is like, if this is 2 weeks ago, I don't even consider playing Detroit. But I mean, Lassie Thompson's an AHLer, but half the Ottawa blue line is out, including their top 2 defensemen. Like, this is a very, very good team. At a certain point, you just start losing so many players that it becomes a real problem. Like, you can probably get by playing a couple games, like Jordan Spence and Artem Zub playing 25 to 30 minutes, Tyler Kleven 20 to 23 or whatever. But I don't know. I don't have a ton of interest in playing Detroit. One, it's Larkin's first game back off a lengthy, not lengthy, but if he was out for a couple weeks with injury. It's a double center stack with Larkin and Finney if you play that top line. And the Ottawa penalty kill, we talked about it a lot this year. Getting better of late. One thing I noticed, almost all of Ottawa's bad penalty killing results came with Nick Jensen on the ice. I think he has the 3rd highest goals against rate of any penalty killing defenseman in the NHL this season, and the other 2 are in St. Louis. So he has the most of any team outside of St. Louis, and they basically stopped using him on the PK like at the start of January. And since then, the Ottawa penalty kill is top 5 in the league over their last 25 games. Now, again, no Sanderson, no Chabot. So we'll see how that goes. But I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a great power play spot for Detroit. I ran the Sims for this slate. It gave me back 1 Detroit skater in 300 lineups, and it was Andrew Kopp, and it was at 0.3% of the lineups. So I think if my math is right, that's 1 lineup out of 300 has Andrew Kopp, and then nobody else. I mean, I'm not. It's one of those weird games where, like, if Detroit wins 6-1, and this is one of Ottawa's worst losses of the season, it wouldn't surprise me just because of how depleted their blue line is. But I think it would be something I'd be more interested in if it was 7, 8, 9 games and not 15 games. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel the need to rush over there. So I'm kind of out on Detroit. I am out on Ottawa. Like, those forwards are too expensive, and they are without their 2 best puck-moving defensemen. I think they'll still be fine with Spence and Zub or Spence and Kleven on the ice. When they're not on the ice, I think it could be a bit of a gong show. So if you want to one-off Kachuk or Cousins or something like that, like Dylan Cousins, he's been pretty good. He's been shooting a lot of late anyways, 28 shots in his last 10 games. You want to one-off them, that's fine, but I don't think I'm stacking the forwards in this game. This is a game where I'm looking more towards the defenseman.
Seattle Kraken with a 2.8 total. Heading into Florida, the Panthers have a 3.2. Seattle going Beniers, Eberle, McMahon, Stevenson, Gaudreau, Capo, and then Wright, Tolvin, and Catton. Florida going Bennett, Kachuk, Verhaeghe, Rodriguez, Lusterine, and Bachwist. I'll start on the Florida side. Listen, the top line, Bennett, Verhaeghe, Kachuk, 18,300. They have the 4th highest top 2 stack on the night at 13.2%. A little bit of negative leverage at 14.4% projected ownership. The thing is, right, they're fully correlated. Seattle's penalty kill is atrocious. Since they moved McMahon up to the Beniers line, they don't have a good defensive line. Whether that line sees Beniers, whether they see Stevenson, it doesn't matter. Like, they're both really bad. I do really like the Florida top line here. They don't really have a bottom 6 either. They barely have a second line here tonight. So, like, the minutes are going to be fairly high for them, I believe, unless, like, Paul Maurice is like whatever on the season and they still only play him 17, 18 minutes. But at 18,300 in this spot, I do like them. The second line at 8,900, it's just like I'd only consider them because of they'll be in a decent 5-on-5 matchup, and they're 8,900, and they'll probably play at least 15 minutes. But like, it's really Florida one or bust. On the Seattle side, I know there's no real matchup concerns on the Florida side. Like, they're just not a good defensive team. But with McMahon on the top line instead of McCann, they're really bad offensively. The Stevenson line's really bad offensively. I think, like, if anything, I do a two-man of Wright, Tolvanen. Otherwise, I'm out on Seattle.
Yeah, this is another one where, like, I imagine the Discord is going nuts over playing Seattle here tonight. I couldn't really argue with it, man. Like, Florida's missing half their forwards. That's not an exaggeration either. And what could effectively be their entire top line with Barkov, Reinhart, Marchand all out, and, you know, a functional third line with Lundell, Samoskevich, and Greer. Like, Bennett, Verhaeghe, and Tkachuk is nice. They're nice to have. They're also the worst defensive line that Florida's had for the last couple of years. And I can't imagine everybody else is going to be stepping up and being anything special. That's why, like, I'm not super excited about playing Seattle here, but it's another one of those situations where Florida's missing their top, two of their top three forwards, maybe their top two forwards in Barkov and Reinhart, and then a lot of important guys from the middle six. They're missing a couple defensemen. Like, there's just a lot of players missing from this lineup. And McMahon, Beniers, and Eberle, like, you're right. Like, their numbers have just been flat out bad. 40 shot attempts, 457 against in 60 minutes together. Like, that's horrific stuff. But it's not as if, like, this is an imposing matchup by any means. And I'm not keen on stacking them because there are a lot of lines. Like, there's 13,200. There are a lot of lines in that, like, 12,500 to 14,500 range that I think are very playable. But I wouldn't hate playing that Seattle top line here, you know, just because they're perfectly correlated 17 to 19 minutes for a filler stack in a great 5-on-5 matchup. As bad as they are, how good is Florida with this lineup, right? So I don't mind Seattle one. If you want to one-off like Tolvanen or Kako or something like that, I think that's fine. But Seattle one, I don't hate as a filler. Obviously, Florida one is the traction here. You mentioned their positive or their little bit of negative leverage. I don't think it's a big deal given their top two stack, as you mentioned. The Sims did give me a lot of positive leverage when I ran them. The highest 15.3% from Sam Bennett, Carter Verhaeghe about half that at 7.8%, Matthew Tkachuk plus 2%. A lot of positive leverage on the Florida guys. I think it makes sense given the matchup. I don't know how many minutes they're going to play. It kind of sounded like they're giving up on the season. I think somebody had a quote the other day. It's like, we're in the middle of the journey. This is just like one chapter or something like that. Like,
he's no Austin Matthews, whoever made that.
So it feels like no matter what, these guys play 18, 19 minutes. I don't think they're going to play like 24 minutes like Connor McDavid would in this situation. Listen, I really do like Florida one. They're one of, like, there are a handful of lines in an 18 to 20K range. Like, I'm not playing Ottawa. We'll get to New Jersey in a second. Probably not playing them. Same thing with Pittsburgh and Winnipeg. There are a couple other lines I might play, but this would be a top three line for me, absolutely, in that 18 to 20K range. I really do like Florida one in this matchup. They put Seth Jones back on the power play mercifully, and the power play has been much, much better with him running it as opposed to Aaron Ekblad. So I really do like Florida one here. They'd be one of the top lines I'd play, obviously, in that 18 to 20K range. I don't hate Seattle one as a filler, but that might be more MME.
Yeah, I mean, if you need one other reason to play Seattle, Bob is in net here tonight, and he's been awful this season. So next year he'll be top three Vezina for sure at like 412 years old, whatever he is. Carolina Hurricanes with a 3.4 total. Heading into Montreal, the Habs with a 3.1 total. Had a little meltdown in the head there. Carolina going Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis, Stankoven, Hall, Blake, Stahl, Martinook, Ehlers. Canadiens going Suzuki, Caulfield, Slavkovsky, Evans, Bolduc, Texier. Listen, The Hurricanes goaltending.
Sorry, just Josh Anderson was back at practice, but they refused to reveal line combinations. So the Montreal depth might change here tonight.
So Freddie Anderson starting. Bussy's been terrible of late. Freddie's also bad. But like Montreal 1 is 21,100. That's just a very steep price to pay against Carolina. They have a 9.7% top two, 2.5% projected ownership. Their penalty kill has been very, very good since Slavin's gotten back. In single entry, I'm not playing Montreal 1. If you get to them in 20 max to 150 max, like fine. But 21,100 on this slate, I'd rather play Carolina 1 for $300 more in the much better power play matchup. So I'm out on Montreal 1 single entry. Again, like Montreal 2, if it's Evans, Bolduc, Texier, 2-mana Bolduc, Texier, Evans, Texier, Evans, Bolduc, something like that is where I go on the Montreal side. The Carolina side is a little bit more interesting. Strangely enough, the Carolina top line has a smaller top two stack percentage than Montreal at 7.8, 0.7% projected ownership. They are fully correlated, though. They will see the Suzuki matchup, which kind of is not great, but it's a much better power play matchup for the Hurricanes top line than the Montreal top line. Do I want to spend 21,000 and change for either of them here tonight? Probably not, especially considering you can get the Stankoven line at 12.5 or the Stahl line at 11.7 against the depth of Montreal. The Stankoven line is fully correlated on the second unit. Carolina's still doing the Stahl-Ehlers thing on the power play, so you get at least one of them on the power play there. I'd probably look to the depth of Carolina and Montreal too. Both top lines are fine in MME, but in single entry, I'm probably looking elsewhere.
Yeah, on a slate this big, it's going to be hard for me to pay over 21,000 for either of those lines in their respective matchups. 20 max and above or something, if you get to them, that's fine. For me, this is about the depth. Like you said, like Bolduc and Texier up to 55 minutes together, 77 shot attempts, 5 expected goals per 60. They're not scoring a lot because they're shooting 3.5%. Figure that's got to get better. Bolduc scored the other night, but it was called back on an offside by one of those 4 millimeters offsides or whatever. I mean, it's a little bit more than that, but they have looked very good either with Evans or with Doc. 2-man there is fine, but for me, this is a Carolina 2 game. As you mentioned, that Carolina second line is going to avoid the Suzuki matchup, which is what you want. They are perfectly correlated. Since Christmas, 315 minutes together, 5-on-5, 4.1 expected goals, 3.4 actual. Jackson Blake, 28 shots in his last 10 games. You mentioned they're perfectly correlated on the second power play unit. Montreal is still taking a fair number of penalties with a below average penalty kill. At 12,000, is it 12,500 for Carolina 2? Almost no ownership on them. Like that feels like a filler stack that I'd be very interested in. So, Carolina 3 is perfectly fine. They've been better offensively with Nick Ehlers there. And as you mentioned, you'll get one of him or Jordan Stahl in the top power play unit in a good power play matchup. But considering how good that Carolina second line has been at 5-on-5 and that they're going to get depth matchups from the Habs, and the depth from the Habs can look shaky at times, if you know what I mean. For me, this is a Carolina 2 game.
Nothing our teams know better than shaky defense with the top line off the ice. Carolina. No, not Carolina. Chicago. Speaking of bad defensively, Chicago Blackhawks 2.5 total heading into Long Island. I hate that for everyone involved. The Islanders have a 3.4 total. Chicago going Bedard, Ryan Green, Anton Frondel, Nazar, Bertuzzi, Lardis, Donato, Mikheyev, Burakovsky. Islanders going Horvat, Heineman, Lee, Shen, Ritchie, Barzal, JG Pajot, Holmstrom, Palat. So if you don't know who Anton Frondel is, he was the third pick in the recent draft. Yeah. Third. He scored 20 goals as an 18-year-old in the Swedish league, which is a man's league. He did it at 18. First person in 20 years or something to do that. Yeah. Besides his haircut, which is ridiculous, he is a very highly touted prospect. He is 3K. That line is 13-7 against the Islanders, who are not good defensively. They broke up Horvat and Barzal for reasons. I don't know what they are, but there's reasons.
Because Braden Shen was getting his teeth kicked in.
Yeah, so give him Matty Barzal to help defensively. I don't know about that, but I do have some interest in that Chicago top line. We'll have to see what the ownership looks like when we get Frondel into the top stacks. I worry he'll have the shiny toy thing and it'll be a little bit overowned, but at that price, it's really not that bad. The issue is, actually it's Big Save Dave in net here. Listen, that's a big drop off from Sorokin. Sorokin's having an unbelievable season. I'm in on Chicago 1 here. The depth of Chicago, Nazar Bertuzzi Lardis at 11-4, I'd rather just go play one of the Carolina lines. If you need something wildly super cheap, I guess you could do Donato Mikheyev Burakovsky, a 2-man for almost min price, just because JG Pajot without Anders Lee is horrific defensively. So I guess you could do a Donato soup 2-man. It's just that's getting down to the nitty gritty. So it's Chicago 1 for me. On the Islanders side, Horvat, Lee, Heineman, 14,400, 5.8% top two, 15% ownership here. It's an excellent 5-on-5 matchup. It's Soderblom, I believe, in net here tonight.
Yeah.
It's just so much ownership for the Islanders when Horvat and Barzal are not together. I know it's a great matchup. It's also a very good power play matchup now that their two best penalty killers are on the Oilers. So I think honestly I'd go down the lineup and just go to Shen, Barzal, Richie at 13K just because they're fully correlated. Now, yeah, you're saying Shen getting his teeth kicked in, but you know who else gets their teeth kicked in? Any Blackhawks line that they've ever put out this season. So I don't know. I don't love them at 13K, but they are fully correlated. They'll see decent minutes. This is an important game for them. So, I think the line 1 is fine in theory, but 3X their top 2 is just going to be a big no for me, dog. I'll go to the second line.
Yeah, it's funny. When I ran Sims, it gave me 4 Islanders skaters with pretty heavy positive leverage. 3 of them are on the top line, Lee, Horvat, and Heineman. 7 to 9% for Horvat and Heineman. Anders Lee at 13.5%. Sims do love them. It is a tremendous 5-on-5 matchup. I think taking Barzal and putting him on the second line hurts Barzal more than it hurts the top line. I think Lee and Heineman will be just fine with Bo Horvat. Horvat and Lee haven't played a ton together this year, but they have been very good even in the limited minutes without Matt Barzal. And you mentioned the Chicago penalty kill. I think it's 9 games now since the trade deadline, which means no Jason Dickinson, no Connor Murphy. Dead last by expected goals against per minute and 31st by goals against per minute on the penalty kill for Chicago since trading their top 2 penalty killers. Not that the Islanders' power play is any good, but this is actually one of the few matchups that's a good one for them. And that second line for the Islanders is perfectly correlated. So I can't believe I'm actually saying this. This might actually be a spot for an Islanders power play stack. Oh. I know. Just the second line plus Bo Horvat plus Matt Schaefer, not super expensive. And if this was Spencer Knight, I'd be hesitant about that. Arvid Soderblom is just not having a good year. Obviously, any goalie is capable of a good game once in a while. Like he shut out Utah earlier this month in Utah. And then he gave up 4 goals to Vancouver the very next game. So like, this isn't a very good goalie. I don't, if I were to stack anything, it would probably be the Islanders top line, just because I have more faith in them being good at 5-on-5 than I do Schenn, Ritchie, Barzal. Just because Schenn and Ritchie have been they've played 35 minutes together. It's only 35 minutes. Those 35 minutes, 33 shot attempts for, 67 against per 60. That's AHL stuff. Barzal can help. He can only do so much. Just because I have more faith in the top line being good at 5-on-5, I would stack the top line. This might actually be a spot for a power play stack. On the Chicago side, it's actually funny that Frundell is playing the Islanders in his first game. I was reading his elite prospects profile. They said his profile reads kind of like Bo Horvat, and that might sound like a slap in the face, but Bo Horvat is a guy that can put up 35 goals, 70 points with good defense and penalty killing, which is an insanely valuable player. It would be the best player that Connor Bedard has had next to him since Connor Bedard got to Chicago. So I do like whether Frundell's that right out of the gate, we'll see. But like, we have seen guys step into the league late in the season. Like Lane Hudson did it a couple years ago for Montreal. Ivan Demidov did it last year. Leo Carlson, he started the season in Anaheim, but he was in and out of the lineup. Like he was pretty good as a rookie. So like, I think there is merit to playing Chicago 1 here. It's just, if this was like a 7, and I'm going to say this a few times. If this was like a 7-game or an 8-game slate, that'd be one thing. A 15-game slate playing the Chicago Blackhawks on the road, probably going to be a no for me, dog.
Yeah. I mean, I probably won't play the Blackhawks either, but
I mean, fill your boots, man, but I am not playing a 2.5 total Chicago Blackhawks on the road on a slate with 30 teams on it.
That's fair. There's no argument for me. I can't poke a hole in that. Columbus Blue Jackets, the 3.1 total. Heading into Philadelphia, the Flyers have a 2.8. Blue Jackets going Fantilli, Marchment, Marchenko, Monahan, Johnson, Garland, Coyle, Cylinder, Olivier. Flyers going Dvorak, Konechny, Bump, Zegras, Tippett, Barkey. He's a game-time decision, but he skated on the second line today, so it looks like he's going to be there. Cates, Mitchkov, Grunstrom. My brother is texting me. He's a Flyers fan, saying this is a very important game for the Flyers, to which I countered, but they suck. Because, they're like 5 points out with 2 games in hand, but this is a must-win for them, and they're running out these lines. It's absolute scene. On the Columbus side, the top line is 17,600, 3.7% top 2, 1.5% projected ownership. Dvorak, Konechny, Bump have been really bad defensively. They've gotten really good goaltending behind them, but it's a good power play spot. Philadelphia's penalty kill is really bad. They've been saved by Dan the Man, but for 17,600 1%, I would definitely have them in my MME portfolio. I think Monahan, Johnson, Garland's fine at 10,600 as a filler. They don't even have a top stack percentage, which is rude. And I'm going to file a report with Jake. But they have been excellent in 60-plus minutes together this season. There really isn't a matchup concern on the Flyer side. Minutes are the concern there, so 10,600 is kind of priced in. Coyle, Olivier, Cylinder, I think you can do as well. Cylinder had a 3-point game the other night. I guess water is occasionally wet still. But, yeah, I don't mind that third line either. I think there's 3 playable lines depending on what you want to do with Columbus, but my favorite is Columbus 1. On the Flyer side, if Barkey is in, the only line I'd have interest in is Zegras, Tippett, Barkey. Dvorak and Bump are creating absolutely nothing together. Cates Mitchkov is an absolute scene, so it would be Zegras, Tippett, Barkey for me.
Yeah, I mean, not playing the Flyers on a 15-game slate, I can tell you that much. you want to play like a Konechny one-off or a Tippett one-off or something like that, like, go ahead. For me, it's about Columbus. And it's because the Columbus top line, one, they've been so good offensively together, right? Like, I was looking at their numbers since the Olympic break: 3 expected goals, 3.8 actual. It's just really, really good. The other is the power play. Like, we mention it all the time. The Columbus power play, which was fairly poor to start the season, has been a lot better with Charlie Coyle. Not elite by any means, but above average for a top power play. And being above average for a top power play unit for Columbus is, I mean, off the top of my head, they haven't done it in the last 5 years. So that's a fairly important development. And the Flyers penalty kill is absolutely awful. Bottom 5 in the league by goals against per minute over the last 25 games. Bottom 3 in the league by goals against per minute since American Thanksgiving. And over their last 25 games, they're also taking a lot more penalties. 3.2 times shorthanded per game. Put that together with the bad penalty kill, they're giving up the 4th most power play goals against per game over their last 25. Columbus doesn't necessarily draw a ton of power plays, but their power play is very good, as Flyers penalty kill is bad enough to go, to allow 1 goal on two times shorthanded, but they might give them 3 or 4 power plays. So I see Columbus 1 coming with positive leverage at 17,600, being very good at 5-on-5, in a very good power play matchup. I kind of dig Columbus 1 here. Like, 17,600, like, they're right. They're nice. They're not super expensive. So you can play them, and you can actually play them with Werenski and then put in, one of the 12K lines that we'll talk about, or that we've already talked about. So I really do like Columbus 1 here. What worries me is the goaltending, facing Vidar. He's just been really, really good this year. And I think I'd have to double check. I think the Flyers lead in 5-on-5 save percentage since the Olympic break, like over the last month. They're definitely top 3. So it is a bad matchup facing that Flyers goaltending, but I think it's a very good 5-on-5 matchup against the skaters and a very good matchup against the power play. So for me, this game is about Columbus 1. If you want to stack one of the depth Columbus lines because you need a filler, go ahead. But I think if I'm specifically targeting the Blue Jackets, it's this top line.
It's pretty funny to say you don't like stacking against Dan Vladar when he was legit one of the worst goaltenders in the season.
Like, if this is Columbus in Calgary 12 months ago, like, the top line for Columbus is the first 3 guys in my lineup.
It's insane. But yeah, all right. Colorado Avalanche, they 3.6 total heading into Pittsburgh. The Penguins have a 3 total. Colorado going McKinnon, Netchus, Landeskog, Nelson, Nishushkin, Colton, Kadri, Roy, O'Connor. Pittsburgh without Malkin is going Crosby, Raquel, Rust, Novak, Chinnikov, Mantha, Kindle, Brazeau, Koivunen. This is just not a great matchup for Pittsburgh here. They do have a 3 total, which is a little surprising. I guess it would be Novak, Mantha, Chinnikov for me at 12,100. But like, there isn't a matchup where I go, oh yeah, they can take advantage of this line for sure. I don't love Pittsburgh here. If you get some of the second or third lines, I guess in MME as fillers, fine. You get 1 Pittsburgh 1 just because they're fully correlated. And they've been good offensively this season, fine. But for the most part, I'm out on Pittsburgh. The question is what to do on Colorado, because that top line is 24,200. It's not the greatest power play spot, even though Carolina just put 3 power play goals up on them on a Sunday. Colorado's power play has not been great. It is a very good 5-on-5 matchup, though. Am I going to spend 24,200 for Colorado 1 on the road in my single entry lineup? No. Did we mention a bunch of 10, 11,000 lines that will fit with them? Yeah. So if you want to play the Avs here, it's definitely the top line. Now, because it's not a great power play matchup, I don't mind the second line Nelson and Nichushkin have been very, very good this season. Colton's only 3,200, so that line's like 14-4. We've seen the second lines at times, iterations be like 17.5. So at 14-4 and how good Nelson and Nichushkin have been going up against the middle six of Pittsburgh, I don't mind going to Pittsburgh 2 here, or excuse me, Colorado 2. But if I had to pick one line, all things considered, it's easily Colorado 1. It's just a matter if you want to spend the money or not.
I mean, I don't. I'm not spending $24K plus for a line on a 15-game slate in single entry. I'm just not doing it. So, I think the Colorado second line would be perfectly fine, like you said, with Ross Colton there. Nelson and Nichushkin have generally been pretty good this year. Not really worried about any of the 5-on-5 matchups from Pittsburgh. And you're right about the power play, or the power play matchup. Like, the Penguins penalty kill, lowest goals against per minute over their last 25 games, lowest goals against per minute going back to American Thanksgiving. It's legitimately been the best penalty kill in the NHL for 4 months. Colorado's power play has been better with Kadri. I think that's something we kind of expected. It's still not elite, but league average, a little bit above league average, which is a pretty big improvement for them. But it's such a bad power play spot. Like, I have no interest in stacking the top line. So, like, yeah, if you want to do like a Nelson Nichushkin 2-man, I think that's fine. You pardon me, you want to do like a Kadri, like Roy 2-man or something like that, I think that's okay. Man, something in my throat. Didn't mean to say that out loud. So like maybe something from the depths from Colorado, but that's about it. On the Pittsburgh side, like, Mantha, Novak, Chinnikov is pretty interesting to me because, like, all those guys are having really good seasons. Like, Mantha is, like, on a per minute basis, is probably having the best season of his career. Tommy Novak's had a big bounce back year. Obviously, Chinnikov has been just tremendous since getting to Pittsburgh. I was looking at Mantha and Novak. They have almost 200 minutes together with anybody but Malkin on the line. And in those minutes, 3.3 expected goals, 3.7 actual per 60 at 5-on-5. Like you said, the Penguins have a 3 total here. I don't mind Pittsburgh too, honestly, like as a filler. Like, they're not expensive. They've generally been very, very good offensively this season. Mantha and Chinnikov are both under 5K, so they're not super expensive. So, like a Novak Mantha 2-man, Novak Chinnikov 2-man, you want just one off one of the wingers, I think that's fine. I honestly think, given the prices here and the power play, and the bad power play matchup for Colorado, I prefer the Pittsburgh side, and I prefer the Pittsburgh second line above anything.
Minnesota Wild with a 2.9 total. That was before the Kaprizov news. Heading into Tampa Bay, the Lightning have a 3.6. Minnesota going to Hartman, Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Eriksson, Ek, Johansson, Boldy. Tampa going Cirelli, Hagel, Kucherov, Point, Gonsalves, Gensel. If I remember correctly, I think Hagel was on the top power play unit last game over Bjorkstrand, which is important for this one. I don't mind Minnesota here. The problem is Andrei Vasilevsky, right? Because, like, Hartman, Zuccarello, Kaprizov, they're going to play an absolute ton here today. They're 18,900. Cirelli, Hagel, Kucherov have not been great defensively.
Yeah, but they send out the Gord line.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That line has been nasty. Yeah, it's the second line. I always confuse Tampa with that. It's the second line that I have interest in: Eriksson, Ek, Boldy, Johansson at 16.5. Seeing Cirelli or seeing Point, those lines haven't been great defensively. The Gord line has been an absolute meat grinder all season. I still think Minnesota 1's fine from just the standpoint that, like, Kaprizov's gonna play 23, 24 minutes. But my preferred is Minnesota 2 with Eriksson, Ek back, 16,500. They've been pretty good. Boldy looked awful without Eriksson, Ek. I don't know what happened there, but for 16,500, don't mind a couple stabs there. But the more interesting thing is what to do on the Tampa side, because this Tampa top line is 22,600. But now you're getting 2 of the 3 on the top power play in a good power play spot. Now, I know Minnesota's penalty kill has gotten better, but getting better from the basement is, not good. I just don't want to spend that. I think like doing one-offs here is where I'd be. Like Kucherov being only 9,900 feels like a discount. A one-off Kucherov, a one-off Hagel, one-off Gensel, something like that. I don't know. Like if I don't have a problem full stacking at 22,600. It's just there's a lot of playable lines in that 17 to 20K range where like I'd rather just have a one-off and I can build a 3-2-1 and the one be like a Kucherov or a Hagel and I can find like a cheap 2-man, you know what I mean? So it would be one-offs from the Lightning side. I think you can stack that top line, but I just prefer one-offs.
Yeah. I'm out on Minnesota 1. Like you said, that Gord matchup is just an absolute meat grinder, so I don't have a ton of interest in them. Minnesota 2 would be my interest. 1, like you said, 16,500 is a reasonable price. You can fit them in with, another reasonably priced line, like the Islanders, let's say, and still get in a very expensive defenseman if you want. They're going to get very good 5-on-5 matchups. Like once you get past the Gord line, the toughest matchup is league average defensively. You know what I mean? So it's pretty good 5-on-5 matchups. That Minnesota second line, 3 expected goals, 3.8 actual in their time together this season. So if anything for Minnesota would be the Minnesota second line. Like I was saying earlier, I ran Sims before we jumped on. It didn't give me any positive leverage from the Minnesota players, but the highest exposure for any player on the board was Matt Boldy. So at the very least, Sims do like Boldy. I would extrapolate that to the second line. So if I stack anything from Minnesota, it'd be the second line. On the Tampa side, like I understand Kucherov is on the heater to end all heaters. 22,000 and change for facing a Minnesota team with a top 10 penalty kill over their last 25 games. And getting back 2 key players. Their defense, the Minnesota defense is completely healthy. It's just kind of a pass for me. I will say Nikita Kucherov has the second highest projection of any player on the board here tonight. So I'll never say no to a Kucherov one-off or a Hagel one-off or something like that. But I'm not full stacking anything from Tampa given their prices. For me, it's Minnesota 2 or nothing.
New Jersey Devils, they 2.5 total. Heading into Dallas, the Stars have a 3.1. Devils going Hischier, Meyer, Mercer, Hughes, Bratt, Brown, Glass, Grietzuk, Lenny Ham. Stars going Johnson, Robertson, Bork, Duchesne, Ben, Bunting. On the Devils side, I don't have a ton of interest. That is not surprising. I'll just be quick. A 2-man of like Glass Grietzuk or Glass Ham or just like a Grietzuk one-off is probably where I'd be. That Devils third line. Like I just don't have a ton of interest in the Nico Hischier line. They're creating well, but they're not scoring. The Hughes line, they're not creating a ton. They're not scoring a ton. They are fully correlated, but it's not a good power play matchup. So I'm pretty much out on the Devils. On the Dallas side, the top line's up to 20,100, but they have a 13.8% top 2 and 9% projected ownership against this Devils team that no matchup concerns, a bad penalty kill, bad goaltending, bad blue line, really good PR. That's really about it. The top line for Dallas has been excellent in over 200 minutes together. Again, there's a ton of lines from 17 to 20K. This is right above 20K. I'd much rather play Dallas 1 than Tampa 1, than Carolina 1, than Montreal 1. So I do like Dallas 1 here. I think Dallas 2 is interesting as a filler, especially with Bunting there over Steele. Steele played well on that line. But Bunting has higher upside offensively. I mean, he got traded for Tommy Novak, which was an awful trade. But Duchesne, Ben, Bunting for 11,700. You get 2-3 on the top power play. Duchesne and Ben have been good since they got moved to the top unit. So, but this is a Dallas 1 game. I think Dallas 2 is fine as a filler.
Yeah. When I ran Sims, it only gave me back 5 Dallas skaters. 2 were defensemen and the other 3 were all on the top line. The only one with positive leverage was Jason Robertson, but also gave me some Maverick Bork and Wyatt Johnston. Like, it didn't really like the second line from the Stars. I think that kind of makes sense given the matchup against this New Jersey penalty kill, which, last year the Devils, one of the best penalty kills in the league. Now, Devils penalty kill was bad to start the season, very bad to start the season, gotten better recently. Like, their last 25 games, they're top 10 by goals against. So has been getting better. Which penalty kill is the real one? Call it somewhere in between, maybe average. But, the Dallas power play has still been great no matter what. I don't mind Dallas 1 here, but a little over 20K, 9% ownership. I'm going to be honest. I think I'd rather save like the $2,000 and go play Florida. Or just pay up an extra $2,000 and go play Tampa Bay or something like that. You know what I mean? Right around that price range, to me, it's just not a good spot. Like I said, I would rather just pay the extra and go play Tampa, or just save and go play Florida at, a bit higher ownership, but, saving the money, and I can maybe get a much better defenseman or something. So I don't have a ton of interest in Dallas. Going to be honest, I have a little bit of interest in New Jersey here. That New Jersey second line, 67 shot attempts per 60, 2.8 goals per 60, but perfectly correlated on the power play. And the power play with Dougie Hamilton running it, 11.4 expected goals, 15.6 actual, a very, very, very good power play. So perfectly correlated Devils line that nobody's playing. I think it's more MME than anything. Like 18,200, I feel like it is kind of expensive. Again, a single entry, I'd probably just go play Florida, even with a discrepancy in ownership. But New Jersey too, I don't hate the idea of playing them in MME, but other than that, I'm probably out on this game.
San Jose Sharks with a 3 total. Heading into Nashville, the Preds have a 3.5. On the Sharks side, what was it? Toffoli's out. Chernyshov's a game-time decision, but he skated on the top line.
Yeah, he practiced yesterday, so.
Yeah. So Celebrini, Smith, Chernyshev, Wenberg, Eklund, Groff, Misa, Regenda.
They just confirmed Chernyshev is in tonight.
Perfect. Misa, Regenda, Sherwood. Preds going O'Reilly, Stamkos, Evangelista, Wood, Forsberg, Marchessault. So on the Sharks side, the Sharks top line with Chernyshev there is 17K. 6.4% top 2, 6.7% projected ownership. It might actually be fully correlated. I don't know if they're putting Eklund there or Chernyshev.
Yeah, it's Eklund.
Yeah. You get 2 of the 3 on the top power play. Chernyshov's still min price. They're 17K. The problem is, like, O'Reilly, Stamkos, Evangelista have been really good defensively. It's their only good defensive line. Celebrini's definitely into that matchup proof range. I just don't know if I'm going to get there in single entry on a 30-team slate. Like, if I was MMEing, I have no problem coming in at the field on the Sharks top line at 6.7%. It's just in single entry against that line at that price, I'll just go play Columbus. That's kind of my thoughts on it. In MME, like, obviously I want some Celebrini, but that makes the second line interesting at 11,400. Wenberg, Eklund, Groff. Like, Groff is a pretty skilled offensive player. He didn't have the best numbers with Celebrini, but he's going to avoid top competition now. You get 2 of the 3 on the top power play. Wood, Forsberg, Marchessault. It doesn't matter, the 3 names I just named. As long as you're not seeing O'Reilly, like, anything coming at them at the Nashville side is a good matchup. So I don't mind that second line of Wenberg, Eklund, Groff. No one's really playing them under 1%, 11,400. Wenberg plays good minutes, so I don't mind them as a filler I think San Jose 1 is more MME. I think San Jose 2 you can play as a filler. On the Nashville side, as much as I hate the Preds, I think that top line's in play, even with some negative leverage. 5.6% top two, 9.2% projected ownership. There's no matchup concerns. They've been good together. You get O'Reilly and Stamkos on the top power play unit. Evangelista has been their best forward, not named Philip Forsberg. So, I think you could do the Nashville top line plus Forsberg, something like that. But it would be Nashville 1 for me and San Jose 2.
Yeah. On the San Jose side, like I was looking, Chernyshov and Celebrini played pretty well together when Chernyshov was there earlier in the season. 170 minutes together, 60 shot attempts, 3.5 expected goals, 4.3 actual. Like that is just nuclear stuff. And I don't love the matchup against Ryan O'Reilly, but I think I agree with you. Like I'm kind of at the point where Macklin Celebrini's in the bucket with Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon, where like I really don't care about the matchup. Obviously, some are better than others. Like I would rather him be going into Chicago to face Frank Nazar, but don't always get what we want. 17K though, like you said, Columbus is right there at 17,600, and I'd rather play Columbus here tonight. I'm not convinced Chernyshov even lasts the game on the top line. Like if this is a close game, like they were playing very well together and they still sent him back to the AHL a couple months ago, right? Like this is not a guy that I don't think they want playing 17 or 18 minutes on the top line if they can avoid it. So I worry that he's going to be moved, but I have no problem playing San Jose 1 here. If you want to drop down to San Jose 2, I think that's fine. I'm not sure how good they're going to be offensively. Like Wenberg is he's just not good offensively. Like I don't know what to say there. Guy I wouldn't mind having on my team, but he's not a great offensive player. And Graf is fine, but he needs somebody to elevate him. And as good as William Eklund is, he can't elevate 2 guys by himself. So I think for me, it's San Jose 1 or bust, but considering Columbus is right there, I'm probably out on the Sharks. On the Nashville side, like I'm not super keen on playing chalk Nashville, but that top line has been so good. 3.7 expected goals, 4.2 actual goals per 60. O'Reilly's playing well over 20 minutes. Stamkos, 18, maybe 19 minutes. Evangelista will get less than that, but that's fine. San Jose's penalty kill has been getting a lot better as the season's gone on. They don't take a ton of penalties, but I really don't mind Nashville 1 here because they're 15,900. If they're like 17,900, I'd probably just flat out pass. But they're in that bin there are some other lines on the board here tonight around that 15K mark. We talked about Boston earlier, Toronto earlier. We'll get to Utah in a second, Anaheim a little bit later. Like there are some lines in that 15 to 16K range where you might want to pair 2 of them together because you do want to play Makar or Werenski or put Yossi up there with him. That playing Nashville 1 in that setup I think is perfectly fine here. I'm not sure on power play stacking here. It'd be either the first or the second line. I prefer the top line just because they've been so good in their sample together. So for me, this game's about Nashville 1.
Washington Capitals, 2.8 total. Heading to St. Louis, the Blues have a 2.8. Caps going Strome, Ovechkin, Beauvillier, Dubois, Wilson, Protas, Sordif, McMichael, Leonard. Blues going Thomas, Holloway, Snuggerud, Buchnevich, Kyrou, Neighbors. We'll just stop there. It is Uncle Chuck in net, Charlie Lindgren for the Caps. That is a big downgrade from an already bad Capitals defensive team going down from Logan Thompson. This Blues top line is expensive at 19,500, but they are fully correlated on the Broberg unit, which has been better than a normal Blues power play. If they see the Strome line, they're atrocious defensively. You know what I mean? So, like, Charlie Lindgren in net. I don't really want to spend 19.5 for a Blues line with a 2.8 home total on a 30-team slate, but like as an ownership play, I think it's doable with Lindgren in net at 1.5% projected. Like I'm not slamming them in single entry. That's like insane. I mean, I've done worse things, but 19,500 is pretty steep. It's a great matchup, though, and they're fully correlated. Second line, also fine, but again, like 13,400 for those minutes. I'd rather just save the 900, go play Carolina 2. I guess it would be St. Louis 1. It's just a price to ownership thing is why they're playable in this matchup in Charlie Lindgren. On the cap side, it would probably be Protas, Wilson, Dubois. They've been excellent together this season. Whatever matchup they get isn't great. This Blues team, unless they get Dvorsky, Stenberg, Bergen, I doubt Jim Montgomery is going to do that. Like, the top two lines have been pretty good defensively. Joel Hofer has been much better since the beginning of the season. Blues penalty kill is still pretty bad, but they don't take a ton of penalties, and the Washington power play hasn't been elite or anything. It's been better with Leonard. So it would be Washington 2 and St. Louis 1. I don't particularly love this game, though.
Yeah, 19,500 for that St. Louis top line feels pretty steep. Now they are perfectly correlated. They're getting 19 to 21 minutes a game. Obviously, they've been very, very good together. 3 expected goals, 64 shot attempts for, 44 against per 60, nearly 120 minutes together. So they've been very, very good. But 19,500 for a team with a 2.8 total on a 15-game slate feels pretty hefty, especially like I know that second line doesn't get a lot of minutes. It actually kind of makes me mad. Neighbors playing like 13, 14 minutes, Kyrou around 15, Buchnevich around 17, but they've also been very, very good. 3.2 expected goals, 3.8 actual, in nearly 150 minutes together. I wish they were playing like 15 to 16 and then Buchnevich around 18 or 19, but it is what it is. It's a very, very good matchup for them. I think at 13,400, they're perfectly fine here. Like 6K is a pretty steep discount for, 5 or 6 fewer minutes, pretty much across the board, 3 or 4 fewer minutes across the board, I guess. So I think I prefer St. Louis too, just because they're so much cheaper. 2, there are a bunch of lines in that 18 to 20K range that I think are playable. We already talked about Florida. We'll get to the Kings in a second. I didn't hate New Jersey. If you want to pay up a little bit more and go play like Carolina or Montreal, I think that's fine. So like Columbus, is $2,000 cheaper. San Jose is $2,000 cheaper. Like for me, it's just a pass on St. Louis 1. St. Louis 2, I think is my favorite line in this game. On the Washington side, like it would be the Caps second line, Dubois, Protas, and Wilson. 3 expected goals, 4 actual per 60. They're getting a lot of minutes, which is why I really don't mind them. They're getting 19 to 21 minutes a game like the St. Louis top line is. And at 14,400, they're pretty close to a filler. I think it's both second lines for me in this game. I would lean to the St. Louis side, but I think I prefer both second lines over both top lines. And at least on the Washington side, it's not close for me.
Vegas Golden Knights, they 3.1 total. Heading into Winnipeg, the Jets have a 2.8. Vegas going Eichel, Stone, Barbashev. Now they're in Canada, so they don't have reporters. We have Hurdle on the third line. He could be on the second line, could be on the third line. I don't know.
Pretty sure they played with Riley Smith their last game.
Yeah, so it's Marner, Dorofeyev, Smith, and then Hurdle, Howden, Bowman. Winnipeg going Scheifele, Connor, Iafallo, Lowry, Perfetti, Velarde. On the Vegas side with those lines, with Hurdle down on the third line, it's really just Vegas 1 that gives me a bunch of interest here, specifically because they're only 17,400. They've been over 20K at times. You get 2 of the 3 on the top power play unit. Winnipeg's penalty kill isn't great. Winnipeg in general isn't great. Hellebuck hasn't had the best season outside of the Olympics where it mattered, but Eichel has 42 power play points on the season, 0 goals, which is an insane stat, but it would be Vegas 1 for me at 2% projected at 17,400. Like that's another line in that Columbus range that I'd rather play over who did we just talk about? over the Sharks top line. I think I'd rather play the Vegas top line as well. So it would be Vegas one for me. On the Winnipeg side, like I have no interest with Iafallo up there in this matchup. If it was Velarde up there, maybe I'd consider it, but I'm out on Winnipeg.
Yeah, the only line I have interest in is Vegas one. Eichel, Stone, Barbashev. Since January 1st, they're at 3.7 goals per 60. Eichel's still playing well over 20 minutes a game. Even Stone is in the high teens. Barbashev, not as much, maybe around 15, 16 minutes, but that's fine. But like you said, that's a line that's been 20K plus at times this year. And Winnipeg has been getting better defensively. I wonder how much of that has to do with trading Logan Stanley and Luke Shen. Maybe that helps. The second line's been better defensively. Vegas is definitely one of those teams in that 17K-ish range that I wouldn't mind playing here tonight. You get the minutes. They've been very good at 5-on-5. 2% ownership on a Jack Eichel line facing a Winnipeg team that looks like they're going to miss playoffs. That's of interest to me. So put them in the same bucket with like Columbus. Like if you want a 17K-ish line that's going to be very low owned, I think Vegas one, it fits that bill perfectly, and it's the only line I have interest in this game.
Los Angeles Kings with a 3 total. Heading into Calgary, the Flames have a 2.6. Kings going Kopitar, Panarin, Kempe, Byfield, Moore, LaFerriere. Flames going Backlund, Coleman, Farabee, Frost, Greedon, Coronado, Strome, Olsen, Sharon Govit. I just got to stop naming them. I got to treat them like Vancouver. On the Kings side, I think they have 2 very playable lines at 2 different price points here. The top line is 18,900, but they have been excellent since Kopitar moved up in between Panarin and Kempe. They're fully correlated. We've talked a bunch about how the Calgary penalty kill has fallen off because they traded basically every single one of their penalty killers. So this is a very important game for the Kings. I do really like the Kings top line here. They're coming in with positive leverage at 18,900, 7.8% top 2, 4.3% projected ownership. Honestly, I think it's a line I'd consider in single entry, even though they are on the road. It's just a very, very good matchup. Not a ton to concern yourself with. Like, yes, the Backlund Coleman matchup isn't ideal, but this is a very good top line here. I think the second line is also very in play at 12,600. Now they are coming in with some negative leverage here, 2% top 2, 6.6% projected ownership, but they are only 12,600 against the middle 6 of the Flames, which is just atrocious. They've been excellent together, Byfield and LaFerriere specifically. So if you aren't playing that top line, I think Kings 2 is very much in play.
Yeah, in a nutshell, I really don't mind the Kings top line here. They're going to get that Kevin Ball, Zach Whitecloud matchup. They've been pretty good defensively since Whitecloud got to Calgary. 18,900. Like they're in the same price range as like Florida, St. Louis. So like, if I'm going to play a line that expensive, like I might just go play St. Louis one. Or Florida. If I want a low owned line, I'll play St. Louis. If I don't care about ownership, I'll go play Florida rather than the Kings. The Kings are the third line for me in that 18 to 20K range. Like they're ahead of Ottawa, New Jersey, Winnipeg, Pittsburgh, so on and so forth. But for me, they're behind both Florida and St. Louis. So that's why I don't have a ton of interest in Los Angeles' top line. I think that second line is pretty interesting because they are going to miss that Whitecloud Ball matchup. And then once you get to the rest of the Calgary defense, it just doesn't matter. And they have been very good, as you mentioned. 130 minutes together, 82 shot attempts per 60, 3.7 expected goals per 60, and they're actually scoring 4.2 goals per 60 at 5-on-5. LaFerriere is getting top power play time. At the low end, Trevor Moore is playing 17 minutes a game. LaFerriere and Byfield, 19 to 20, if not 20 plus. Trevor Moore, 3.5 shots per game since the Olympic break. He only has like 2 goals, but he's shooting a lot. I do like that Kings second line as a filler here tonight, even with the negative leverage. If you're playing a 20K line that's coming in with low ownership, Montreal, Carolina, Tampa Bay, something like that, you need a 12K line. Don't care about ownership because you are playing a low owned line that is a lot more expensive. Kings 2 is fine. Calgary 1 is a little interesting just because they have been pretty good, believe it or not. 62 shot attempts, 450 against. Blake Coleman, 30 shots in his last 10 games. I think they're fine as a filler, but I'd honestly rather play the Kings second line. So for me, it's Kings 2 in this game.
Edmonton Oilers, they 3.1 total. Heading into Utah, the Mammoth have a 3.4. Oilers going McDavid, Podkolzin, Savoie. Nugent Hopkins, Roslovic, Hyman. Utah going Schmaltz, Keller, Krause. Cooley, Peterka, Genther. Hayton, Carconi, McBain. On the Edmonton side, it would probably be some sort of power play stack, but I do worry about the power play without Draisaitl. Utah has been taking a lot of penalties. I guess you could do like McDavid, Hyman, Savoie, or something like that if you want to leave Savoie up there or leave Podkolzin up there. Do McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, Hyman, something like that. I don't particularly love stacking across lines on the Oilers here tonight because no Draisaitl. I just don't love this top line. So if you do want the top line, I'd probably do McDavid and one of the cheaper guys plus a Hyman plus a Nugent Hopkins, something like that. But it would be some sort of power play stack, and that would definitely be for MME only. My interest is more on the Utah side. There's not a lot of ownership on Utah's. On the top line, they're 16,500, 5% top two, 5.1% projected ownership. They've been really good in 230 plus minutes. There's no real matchup concerns. Like McDavid with these guys just aren't going to be great defensively. I don't mind Utah 1 here as a mid-range stack. I mean, they have a 3.4 total, one of the biggest ones on the night. No one's playing the second line of Cooley, Peterka, Genther. I guess you could make it a power play stack and go Schmaltz, Keller, Genther, or Schmaltz, Keller, Hayton, something like that. It's a good power play spot. So you can leave Krause off and add in one of the more power play guys. You could just straight up power play stack. Like you can do it because Hayton's only 3,500. Yeah, I wouldn't even mind a Utah power play stack. Their power play has been better with Hayton. So Utah 1, Utah power play, Edmonton power play, but again, without Draisaitl, it's a concern.
I think I'm out on Edmonton. Like I'm not. This is a slate with 30 teams on it. I'm not stacking an Edmonton line with Vasily Podkolzin on the road. Like, if you want a one-off McDavid, I think that's one thing. If you want a one-off, Matt Savoie because he's top line, top power play, like okay, not stacking anything from the Edmonton side. The Utah side, like I think Utah honestly has 3 playable lines here, depending on what you need. Utah 1, man, like 250 minutes with Lawson Krause there, 70 shot attempts, 3.2 expected goals, 5.4 actual. Now, obviously, their shooting percentage is way too high. But even if they're shooting 11 to 12% or 11%, this line's 3.5 to 4 goals per 60 minutes. This has been a great offensive line. 5% ownership against this Oilers team, like Savoie and McDavid, 85 minutes together without Draisaitl or Hyman or any of those guys on the top line with them. 4.2 expected goals against per 60. Does anybody watch the Edmonton defense or goaltending this year? I really do like Utah 1 at 16,500. They're not my absolute favorite line in that price range. I think I still prefer Columbus. Columbus's top 2 stack is a little bit behind Utah's, but in that like 15 to 18K price range, I think Utah 1 is at or near the top, and nobody wants to play them in a great matchup. I am very much in on Utah 1. If you want to drop down to Utah 2, less ownership, a little bit more, not nearly as expensive, or I shouldn't say not nearly, save $1,000. I think that's okay. But like Lawson Krause is at the low end for ice time on the top line, getting 17 minutes a game, and that's the high end for ice time for the guys on the second line. For an extra $1,000, I'll take the extra 7-8 minutes total. So for me, it's Utah 1 in this game pretty easily.
Anaheim Ducks with a 3.7 total. Heading into Vancouver, the Canucks have a 2.9. Anaheim going Carlson, Kreider, Terry. Granlund, Killorn, Seneca, Paling, Viel, Gauthier. Vancouver mixing up their lines after actually having two good ones. I'm out on Vancouver. I guess like if you happen to get Rossi, Bess, or Ogren at 11,700, you get 2 of the 3 on the top power play. But listen, I'm not going out of my way to play Vancouver on a 30-team slate. My interest is on the Duck side, specifically that top line: Carlson, Kreider, Terry. 15,600, 3.4% top 2, 4.9% projected ownership. You get 2 of the 3 on the top power play unit. It's the Canucks. They're terrible defensively. They have an awful penalty kill. Their goalies have been bad. So it definitely would be the Ducks top line. If you want to turn it into more of a power play stack and add Seneca or Gauthier over Terry, fine. But the line with Terry has been very, very good, and it's a great 5-on-5 matchup. I guess you could power play stack the Ducks as well, but I'd be more likely just to play Anaheim 1.
Yeah. I am pretty in on Anaheim here. 300 minutes together, 71 shot attempts, 3.4 expected goals, 3.2 actual. They've been very good offensively at 5-on-5. They're all on the same. They're all in the top power play unit together. Vancouver's penalty kill, second worst in the league over the last 25 games. If you go back to American Thanksgiving, also second worst in the league. Anaheim's drawing a fair amount of power plays. Now, the Canucks don't give up a ton of power plays, but Anaheim can easily go 1 for 2 here tonight against this pretty piss poor Vancouver PK. Nobody wants to play the Ducks, despite a perfectly correlated top line. Well, I should say nobody, but a little bit of negative leverage, but under 5% projected ownership for a line that's been, 30% above average offensively at 5-on-5. That's perfectly correlated on the power play against a very bad Vancouver team. I really do like Anaheim 1. If you want to dip down to Anaheim 2, I have no issue with that in particular. But given the perfect correlation of the top line, I really do like Anaheim 1 here on the top power play unit. So for me, it's Anaheim 1. On the Vancouver side, 30 teams? I don't think so, Tim.
Before we get to defensemen, we have a 1999 super chat from our pal Bobby Boom. In the season-long, I think, semis, schedule killing us, Roto guys. Pick 3 for tonight: Slim, Fantilli, Slough, Ehlers, Holloway, Hyman. Thanks, boys. You truly are the GOATs. P.S. Your favorite low-owned stack. Thank you, Boom, for super chatting us from your Tesla. I guess my favorite 2% stack would probably be either the Blues top line, as horrible as that sounds, or the Columbus top line. Since you didn't ask me to pick 3, I won't.
Fair enough. Yeah. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate the support. I mean, Holloway and Fantilli for sure. I would probably take Slafkovsky after that. If you want to add in Ehlers, that's fine, but Ehlers might only play like 15 minutes, and I'll take the extra 4 minutes or whatever that Slafkovsky's going to play. So that's what I would do. You mentioned a couple 2% stacks that I think are very much in play. I'll add in Vegas 1. That Vegas top line, 3.6% top 2 stack, 2% projected ownership. I really do like them here tonight as well.
Let's get to defensemen here. I don't really love the top range here, but we'll mention the guys: Werenski, Bouchard, Makar, Yossi, Hughes, Schaefer, Chikrin, Radish, Sider, and Heiskanen. Like, I guess, like, obviously, like, Werenski would be number 1 for me at 80, but he's 8,500. I'm not going to force in Werenski in this matchup. If I'm playing Columbus 1, I'll add in Werenski. If I have 8,500 left over for my last spot, I'll put in Werenski, but I'm not going on my way to play him. I think the guys that I have the most interest in are probably something like Yossi against the Sharks, Schaefer against the Hawks, Chikrin against the Blues, and, Heiskanen against the Devils. But I don't particularly love the top range here today.
Yeah, there are 10 defensemen, 6K and above on the board. Top projected, no surprise, Zach Werenski, but the top point per dollar value, and it'll make sense once you hear it, is Miro Heiskanen, actually. 6K, 1.86 fantasy points per thousand projected. He's my number 3. I would have Yossi number 1. Just that it's a great matchup at home against San Jose. He's 7,200. I'll pay the extra for the better projection. I think Matthew Schaefer makes a ton of sense. Given how bad Chicago's penalty kill has been since they traded Dickinson and Murphy, I think Schaefer at 6,600. Like, if you don't want to go down to Heiskanen at 6K, you don't want to pay up to go to Yossi or, even like Makar or something like that. I think Schaefer's a nice in-between guy. 5 to 6K, John Carlson, I think makes a lot of sense in that matchup against Vancouver. Charlie McAvoy as well. Those guys will be around 10% owned. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Brant Clark, certainly, as Bobby was yelling about in chat, 5K ownership, I think very much in play here. Or 5K salary, 8.6% ownership. Brandon Montour for Seattle, I think is fine, given all of Florida's injuries. A little bit cheaper, Jacob Trouba between 4 and 5K for Anaheim. Anybody against Vancouver's in play. On the other side, Philip Hronik, perfectly fine. Mackenzie Weegar, he's been very good. He's put up pretty good peripherals on that pair with Mikhail Sergachev. I know he doesn't get power play time, but he's not priced like it either. Under 4K, Tony DeAngelo is the top projected defenseman, and it's not even close. Almost a full point more than the next closest defenseman under 4K. Jordan Spence, I think once Shabbat got hurt, Jordan Spence was running both power play units for Ottawa. Him and Artem Zub are going to be playing a lot of minutes here tonight. Sam Malinsky has a good projection for Colorado. Brady Shea as well. Hampus Lindholm, very good matchup against Boston. I'll add in Mason Lowry as well. Rasmus Ristolainen, our boy Risto, running the top power play for the Flyers. Who knows why, but he is. Tyler Kleven is under 3K for Ottawa. I feel pretty confident saying he's easily going to pass 20 minutes here tonight. Simon Nemec projecting well under 3K for the Devils. And Braden McNabb for Vegas is always in play as long as he's under 3K.
Let's talk about goalies. I don't really want to, but in the top range, like, I'm not playing an 8,500 Dave Riddick, but I think, 8,400 Jeremy Swayman against the Leafs is fine. I just don't like spending that high. I think for me, if I was in the top range and I had to play someone, it'd be Darcy Kemper, 8,200 against the Flames. But, just going down into the range right below that, honestly, I think my 2 favorite would be John Gibson and Jet Greaves. Greaves is 7,900, Gibson 7,800. Going down, I don't mind Olmark in that game as well. It's 7,600. Jakub Dobish at 7,500. Anyone against the Hurricanes, 7,500 at home is a good price for that. Alex Nedeljkovic, 7,400 against the Preds. Like, it's not ideal, but not awful. Dustin Wolf, I don't love it against the Kings, but the Kings do have pretty good shot volume. 7,200 is not awful. That's probably as low as I would go. Like, Lankinen against the Ducks or Artur Shilovs against the Avs for $100 cheaper, not ideal. I guess, like, if you had to go below that, Stolarz at 7K would be it, or Soderblom at 6,900. But I really don't want to go below Dustin Wolf at 7,200.
Yeah, I mean, Darcy Kemper and Jeremy Swayman and Jake Ottinger are projected in a tier by themselves, and the best point per dollar value goes to Kemper because he's a little bit cheaper than the others. Fine, but Jet Greaves 7,900 against the Flyers, I think, really does make a lot of sense. Same thing with John Gibson at 7,800 against the Sens. Like, given the Sens injury on the blue line, like I said, I think whenever Spence and Zuber off the ice, they're going to have a lot of trouble moving the puck. So, I think for me, it would go Kemper, Swayman, Greaves, Gibson. For cheaper goalies, like, it's a pretty good slate for cheaper goalies. Like Dustin Wolf at 7,200. I know it's still the Kings, man. Like, I know they've been a lot better offensively with Panarin, but it's Los Angeles Kings. Joel Hofer, 7,600 against the Caps, I think makes a lot of sense. But Connor Hellebuck, 7,300 at home against Vegas. Like I said, Winnipeg has looked a lot better defensively, and Vegas has not been filling the net for the last month or so. Joey Decord, 7,300 against a Florida team missing half the roster, I think makes some sense here tonight. And yeah, Jakub Dobish, anybody against Carolina, I think is in play, but we have Hellebuck and Decord right there at 7,300 and then Wolf at 72. I think those are the cheap guys that I would go with.
We'll be back on Thursday because the schedule is just absolutely awful. I think it's 2 games tomorrow and then 11 on Thursday, something like that. It could be worse. I don't know. Who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
I'll go Quentin Byfield.
Play Dustin Wolf because it's just the Kings. Quentin Byfield. Exactly. Perfect straddle there from our pal Cliffy. I am going to go Nick Schmaltz.
All right. Hopefully we'll see what the Islanders can, or what the Oilers can do against Utah here tonight. My guess is not very much.
Hopefully I'll see some wake up in the morning to here comes some Oilers GIFs, whatever they're called. But we'll be back on Thursday. This slate is enormous and I hate it. Good luck, everybody, tonight.
Good luck tonight, everyone.